Okay, it is now live. All right, we will give a few more moments. Welcome to the forum if you just joined. We'll give a few minutes for people to join, and then we'll get started at, say, 7:05.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, people joining. Okay, I think I will go ahead and start briefing this. So welcome to the Palms Neighborhood Council First Candidate Forum. Today we'll be talking about, or we'll be introducing a number of the candidates who are running for our Neighborhood Council Board. The election is June 8th, and you are able to request a ballot June 1st. So tonight's forum will be featuring our executive positions, so president, vice president, and secretary, as well as our business reps. We have two of those, community-based organization, our youth rep, and the areas A and representative area representatives area A and B. My name is Jeremiah Crane. I am one of the co-chairs for the elections committee, and I'm joined with Tina Chin-Akarn and Maria Deconay Weisner from the elections committee. This will be kind of I would say intimate forum. Normally this is held in person, but given the fact that this is still COVID time, this is our first time we are hosting all online. So the neighborhood councils are often decided by only a few votes, given the small electorate size. So everyone here who is attending or who may be in the future listening to this, since it's a recorded session, and we're also streaming live on Facebook, which is also a first for us. The information here will be helpful in getting their making a decision for their votes. All right. So, like I said, our next candidate, this is our first candidate forum. Our next candidate forum for the remaining areas will be on May 4th. That's for C, D, and E. And there will be about 14 participants for that. For today, we have a number of unopposed seats. So the way this will work is each of the unopposed seats will be given 1 minute to give a brief statement. And then for our competitive seats, which is for president and representative area B, They will be given 2 minutes, as well as 3 prepared questions and then 3 questions from the public. For the public to submit a question, you will see down below on your Zoom page a Q&A button where you can write in your question, and then we will select one of those questions. Up to 3 of them will be selected, as well as if there are no questions, we have some that are prepared ahead of time. Let's see. For our competitive seats, just briefly, the opening statements will be done by the alphabetic first name, and the questions then will go in reverse order, mixing it up. We'll go over that when we go to the competitive elections. Tina, is there anything I am leaving out?
Did you want to mention the website and the?
Okay, you go to the next slide. I think we have.
Mm-hmm.
If you want more information on the elections, you can go to pomsnc.la/elections. There is a brief video at the top that will explain how to request your ballot and submitting a mail-in ballot. As a reminder, which you may have heard of by now, this is a vote by mail only election, and you have until June 1st to request your ballot. So I can showcase right here, June 1st to request your ballot. You will not be able to request a ballot on the day of June 8th. So if you do not request a ballot by June 1st, unfortunately, you will not be able to vote. There is no in-person requesting of ballots on election day. But if you, June 4th, you will be able to drop off your ballot at the Palms Rancho Park Library. If you want to drop off, it's the same ballot box that you used for the federal elections, federal and state elections. The clerk is running those and it will collect the ballots from there. And ballots will be sent out starting May 10th. So if you've already requested a ballot and you're wondering where it is, May 10th is when it'll be sent out, and then it'll be done on a rolling basis from there. This is the vote by mail ballot request page on the city clerk's website. You have to create a login, and you'll be able to submit the some information about where you live and how you are a stakeholder of POMS. Tina, you want to give any words to that? Quick.
Yeah, just on our elections website, you'll see information that tells you how to submit your application for a vote by mail ballot, and that link will bring you to the city clerk's page. And feel free to contact us at elections@pomsnc.la if you have any questions. We're more than happy to help you. All right.
Okay. With that, I think we will bring up our first candidate. That is for, we'll be doing it for Residential Representative Area A. So Nicholas Smith. All right. Hi, Nicholas, you have 1 minute.
All right, so since I'm unopposed, I guess I'll keep it short and sweet. So I moved to the neighborhood recently, within the past year. I kind of just knew the neighborhood and looking to get involved and make a difference, in a positive way. So I really have no set agenda. I'm just here to listen to the feedback from the community, what they want, and try and push to make us a better community. Some things about myself. I guess I grew up on the East Coast in Jersey, and then I went to Penn State for undergrad. Then I was a naval flight officer for 9 years. And once I wrapped that up, or I got my MBA at USC as well during that time and wrapped that up last year. Now I just work as a financial consultant at Equitable. But now, I'm looking to get involved in the community here, hopefully as, these restrictions lighten up and we can get back out and interact more in person as well. So I look forward to meeting everybody and serving on the council. Thanks.
Thank you, Nicholas. Okay. We'll be then moving on to Matthew Waite for our community-based organization representative.
Hello.
Hi. All right,
Great.
Nathan, or sorry, Matthew, sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Matthew Waite, and I'm running to be the community-based organization representative. I've lived in Palms and served as a pastor at First Lutheran Church for the last 3 years, and it's just been a really wonderful place for my family to grow and thrive. So I'm running for the community-based organization representative position with the hope that I can network and equip other nonprofits so that we can all continue to push Palms forward and strengthen our community and make it a place where all people have that same opportunity to thrive. I'm also running on a slate full of excellent individuals. I would encourage you not only to vote and support me, but to consider voting for all the members of the Palms Forward slate. They're a group of engaged, empathetic, and wise community members who want to work with all stakeholders of Palms so that we can keep moving Palms forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Okay, that brings our next, we're moving into our business representatives. So we have 2 of those, and we have 2 people running for business rep, but there are also 2 positions for business rep. So we'll start with our first one, Joshua Nadell. Okay, Josh, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you everybody for coming out today. I really appreciate that you all came out today to listen to all the different candidates. I myself am currently at the business rep for Palms Neighborhood Council, and I'm looking again to be the Palms business rep. I'm working on a big project right now to help all of our local food businesses thrive in this time when a lot of them are struggling. It's a very exciting program, and I look forward to keep working on that. I also want to talk about the Palms Forward slate. The people that are on there are some of the hardest working people in this neighborhood, and they have a mission to make this neighborhood be the best possible place that it can. So I hope that you don't just vote for me, but you think about all the other candidates on this slate and really listen to some of the ideas that they have, because they're some of the smartest people that I have met, and I'm very lucky to be on this slate with them. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to getting a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Moving to our next business representative, that is Natasha Gascon. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Okay, Natasha, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And like everyone mentioned before, I am part of the Palms Forward slate, and I would highly suggest for the competitive seats to please vote for the candidates running on the Palms Forward slate, because we all have the same vision to move Palms forward. As for myself, I'm a resident of Palms since 2008 and a business professional with over 12 years experience in a range of industries, from small nonprofits to multinational corporations. As a journalist, my goal has always been to find the story, and what I found in Palms was nothing short of inspiring. This community has always attracted people with great industrious spirit. From the spectators in 1886 who carved this township out of the desolate land, to the people of today who choose our community to establish their creative business. I represented Palms as a delegate of Council District 5 and have seen firsthand the resilience, creativity, and drive to succeed exhibited from our stakeholders. As your business representative, I will make it my mission to help your business thrive by connecting you directly with City Hall, advising you on resources available to serve your customers, your workers, and your neighbors through the COVID-19 reopening and beyond.
Okay, all right, thank you, Natasha. All right, that brings up our next position for secretary. This is for Helen Taco. All right, Helen, the floor is yours.
All right. And my name is Helen Taco, and I've been the secretary for the Palms NC and the co-chair of the Green Committee for the past 2 years. And I'm running for re-election along with the Palms Forward slate. During my time on the Palms NC, I've been involved with fellow committee and Palms Forward slate members Jessalyn Waldron and Kristen Chiarello in initiatives that brought beauty, greenery, and social activities for our stakeholders, young and old. We hosted quarterly neighborhood cleanups where we picked up over 100 bags of trash, gardening days where we planted drought-tolerant plants by the 10 overpass, and organized recycled art days for kids where we made crafts like Halloween monsters from toilet paper rolls. Since the pandemic, we've successfully moved these activities online, giving out over 200 recycled art kits to our neighborhood children, hosting a webinar on planting native California plants, and successfully advocating for 25 new dog waste bag dispensers to be installed throughout the neighborhood. I'm excited to get back to in-person gatherings and continue my work on the Palms NC for another 2 years.
Okay, thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a position for treasurer, and that will be Kay Hartman. All right, Kay, the floor is yours.
Hey, hi. So the main duty of our city government is to provide for the public safety. Public safety means we fix unsafe streets and sidewalks. Public safety means housing for everyone. Public safety means stop generating greenhouse gases. Public safety also means police and fire. It means protecting all of us to serve all of us. The Palms Neighborhood Council can advocate these issues with the city on Palms's behalf. During the term during the just ending term of the Plum Committee, we supported low-income housing and also advocated for middle-income housing. During the just ending term of the Transportation Committee, we worked with the city on slow streets and continue to work with the city to implement a program that will work better for our neighborhood. As an area rep, I help neighbors navigate the city bureaucracy to get dead trees cleared, fix sidewalks, install street lighting. The city doesn't always listen, but if we don't try, it is sure we will wind up with nothing. I am running for treasurer. I ask for your vote.
Okay, thank you, Kay. All right, that brings up our last unopposed seat for vice president, Danya White. Okay, Danya, the floor is yours.
Hey everyone, I'm Danya White and I'm running for the office of Vice President of the Palms Neighborhood Council. I believe in community and I have chosen to be the change that I want to see. I'm currently the Area B representative and the editor-in-chief of the Palms NC newsletter. I'm also a member of the Outreach and Communications as well as the Racial and Social Justice Committees. I share outreach duties with Randall Irving, Kristen Chiarello, and Josh Nadell, fellow members of the Palms Forward slate. Together, we inform the community about the activities of the Palms NC. We spread the word about organizations doing work of benefit to the Palms community and share information about city services that can help our residents. It is my belief that information helps communities make better decisions for all its residents. Cleanliness, the environment, housing advocacy for renters, as well as the unhoused, are all issues that are important to me. I'd be proud to represent and advocate for our community to the greater city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Danya. That brings a close to our unopposed candidates. Are we still waiting on one candidate? Okay, we'll be moving into our representative B, area representative B. We'll be bringing all three or should we do 2 minutes each? Say we'll do one at a time, and then we'll bring all three back for Q&A. Or do we want to do all? Sorry, do all three at once?
Yes, let's have all three come up.
Okay.
See how that works. Yeah.
All right. Apologies, this is new to us too. That's not obvious. Okay, so for our Area B, we have 3 candidates, Markham Stansbury, Rebecca Lee Katz, and Amanda Salzer. Apologies.
I think you might be reading.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's yes, Grace Hancock, Markham Stansbury, and Rebecca Lee Katz. Did you say that, Jeremiah?
I was off by 1. So sorry, it's Grace Hancock, Mark Stansbury, and Rebecca Lee Katz. Apologies, I read the list one name down. Okay, so as a reminder for the competitive seats, we'll be giving each candidate 2 minutes to speak. And then we will be doing a Q&A session. We have 3 questions that we sent out to the candidates ahead of time, as well as 3 questions that we will accept from the public. If you are in the public and would like to ask a question, down below, you will see the Q&A button, and you can ask a question and we will select one of those. If we do not have enough questions, we have 3 backup questions. Okay, with that, we will be going in alphabetic order. So Grace, you can give your 2 minutes now.
Thanks. Thanks for organizing this, and thanks to everybody who showed up. My name is Grace Hancock. I'm running for Area B representative because I love this neighborhood. I think it's the best neighborhood in the city, and I want to help improve it and maintain the great things about it. When the pandemic hit last year, being able to walk around Palms and greet all of you and your pets from a distance was one of the most important things I did for my sanity. So now that things are reopening, I'm also happy to go back to enjoying our great restaurants and bars and getting to know our neighbors in person and improving the community in ways that otherwise couldn't happen. I'm a PhD student in molecular biology at UCLA and have lived in Palms for over 4 years. As a student, I've been involved with various groups at UCLA, including advancing women in science and engineering and advocating for student needs on our advisory committee. Most recently, I've been part of an exciting effort across all the UC to unionize our grad student workers to improve equity through bargaining for improved benefits and protections for all. In my free time, you might see me running around the neighborhood. I also really enjoy surfing, although I'm not great at it, watching basketball, cooking, and reading. As the representative for Area B, I would look forward to furthering all the great work that is already occurring in the neighborhood. My personal priorities align with those of my inspiring colleagues on the Palms Forward slate, including housing equity, resisting displacement during housing development, advocating for our unhoused community, and furthering racial and social justice in our community. I'm honored to be part of this hardworking and compassionate group. I look forward to interacting with and getting to know all my neighbors to better understand our needs and goals so that we can improve our neighborhood and also set the standard for the rest of Los Angeles to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Next up, Markham.
Hi, my name is Markham Stansbury Jr., and I have lived in Palms for over 25 years in the same building for 21. I am running because I know the power of a community coming together. When I was a kid, my dad, I used to always tell my dad, I wish I could have been a teenager in the 60s. And he would say to me, I'm glad you weren't, because with your desire to be so active, you probably would have been dead. In 2008, I quit my job as a teacher at Santa Monica, in the Santa Monica Unified School District, to run the Santa Monica office for the Obama-Biden campaign, unpaid. And I asked my friends to pay my bills to put in, while I put in the time that they were not able to do to accomplish something. And the beauty of that was just amazing. One of the beauties of the pandemic for me is a group called Buy Nothing. And on the way to a Buy Nothing pickup from Helen on the Palms Forward slate, I ran into her and Dana, and they began to talk to me about the neighborhood council and convinced me that it was something that I should be involved in. And I've for years worked for other people and been telling other people that they should run for office because XYZ, and figure it's time for me to put my foot in the pot and make it happen myself. I look forward to working with the Palms Neighborhood Council and would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Markham. Last up, we have Rebecca Lee Katz.
Neighbors and friends, I'm Rebecca Lee Katz, and I'm running to be your Area B rep. Originally from the Bay, I'm mixed. I moved to LA where I am an attorney and an entrepreneur. I've worked for the federal government in Washington, D.C. and the Middle East, lucky enough to live in Lebanon. I went to Georgetown undergrad and worked full-time to graduate from George Washington University Law School. I've worked hard, and I know you have too. I've had to struggle, and I know you have too. I will leverage my experience in government, business, and the law to advocate for you and our community. And if you entrust me with this opportunity, I will not squander it. I will champion your voice from Palms to City Hall. In the last 4 years, we have survived such violence from institutionalized racism and legacies of privilege over poverty. We've witnessed the billionaire class and elite corporations game our political system to avoid paying their fair share in taxes. And in so doing, we watched as they decimated our infrastructure, healthcare system, and other support services so that when the global pandemic of COVID-19 attacked, 574,000 Americans died. How many families left behind and how many more continue to suffer? Well, crises like homelessness, income inequality, and racism are not new, but our political will is, because they are no longer acceptable to us in our society. And in this new and bright and hopeful era in our country's history, we are fighting for rights that we realize now must be human rights. A living wage, the right to housing, the right to education, a clean environment. And if you vote for me, I will carry your voice as a battle cry from Palms to City Hall.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. All right, that will move us into the Q&A. As I mentioned at the top, since there are 3 candidates, we'll be going in a kind of snake order. So we'll start with Grace, then Markham, then Rebecca, then Markham will go first for the next one, Rebecca, then Grace, and then finally Rebecca, then Grace, then Markham. I think I got it right. I'll double check my yes. All right, so we'll
Figure it out.
First. I'll figure it out. Our first question. So, what are your ideas for improving the quality of life in Palms? How do you plan to work on the Palms NC board with other members to advocate for local Palms issues with the city of LA? And we'll start with Grace.
Thanks.
Sorry, one more thing. You have, is it 1 minute per each? 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes to answer.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry.
So I think we all know, it sounds like a lot of us have been here for a while. The West Side is becoming increasingly expensive as these tech companies move in. The cost of living will unfortunately continue to go up. So I would really like to see Palms maintain its affordability and prioritize resisting displacement of its community members. For homeowners and renters, I think we can achieve this by carefully considering how we approve new developments and push them to move towards low income and even public units above the minimums that are set by the city of LA. I think we can do better than those minimums. In turn, I think it's also important to include all of our community members in this discussion. So I would like to continue the work of the current neighborhood council to collaborate with existing advocacy groups, both on the West Side and within the city, to work with our unhoused residents, connecting them to the resources they need. On my slate, I'm running with this inspiring group of individuals who they've already taught me so much about the community and actions that we can continue to take. I look forward to working with them after the election on these measures. Through community impact statements, we also have a unique opportunity to influence the city of LA to implement positive changes or resist negative changes that we don't want. So I would also look forward to collaborating with other neighborhood councils to do part of this work within the committees.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Then we will now move to Markham.
Well, personally, I think it all starts with promoting engagement with each other. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and in my neighborhood, if I peeled an orange, threw the orange peel on the ground, you could count on a neighbor more than often as Mr. Johnson, who we call Sarge, to get on your case. And he didn't ask your parents, he just did it. And if someone was in need in the neighborhood, someone died, someone was sick, the neighborhood took care of each other. Once I remember my next door neighbor, Mr. Chalmers, stopped a burglary at our house, broad daylight, because someone was claiming to be our cousin. And he kind of stepped into it and said, well, I know them, I've never seen you. When I first moved to Palms, I asked the next door neighbor to borrow a knife, and you would have thought that I was Jack the Ripper or somebody. And I think that happened because people are not used to their neighbors engaging with them. I mentioned buy nothing earlier. Really one of the beautiful things about the pandemic for me, not Rebecca, Grace was mentioning that, walking around the neighborhood, just walking around the neighborhood, saying hello to your neighbors, taking them things, giving them things from your place that you're no longer using, sharing books, that kind of engagement promotes community. And when you know your neighbors and you engage with them, you are much more likely to protect them. And that's what we need in our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, Markham. And last but not least, Rebecca, same question.
We improve life in Palms by supporting our local businesses, providing relief to the homeless, and strengthening our schools. We do that in two ways. One, rational tax policy, $400 billion. That's the total value of the 26 largest corporations and 71 billionaires who live in LA. We would be number 18 if we were our own country and a world economy. And yet 1 out of 5 of us lives below the poverty line. According to the MIT Living Wage Calculator, an actual living wage in LA for a single person would be $19.35. For someone with a child, $42, 2 children, $51, 3 children, $67. So we need to push for a true living wage through a rational tax policy where billionaires and mega corporations pay their fair share. Innovation in job creation policies and economic development are necessary, but this is our start. And number 2, through allyship. We partner with LA nonprofit organizations and bring them and their services here to our community. For me, there are 3 areas to focus on: opportunity, access, and inclusion. By opportunity, I mean economic development, COVID-19 relief, and grants for small businesses, and again, raising the minimum wage to a living wage. Opportunity means education. I believe in universal childcare and preschool, as well as free community college. Access means access to a clean environment to fighting climate change, augmenting Mayor Garcetti's Sustainable LA plan, as well as access to affordable housing through permanent supportive housing and enhancing rent control protections. And finally, inclusion means diversity and inclusion, integrating D&I through all services and expanding in particular our services for our seniors, as well as criminal justice reform, reallocating resources to social services, expunging cannabis-related offenses, and stopping ICE cooperation. So it's those 3 areas that I would focus on to enhance life in Palms.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Before we move to our next question, I just want to remind the public that there is a Q&A button at the bottom to submit questions for the candidates right here. And then with that, we'll move into our next question. What initiatives or events would you like to organize? As a board member, you would be required to serve on one or more Palms NC committees. Which one would you pick and why? And for this, we'll be starting with Markham.
By far the easiest question for me, because I would join the Racial and Social Justice Committee. First, me personally, I first became aware of race at 4 years old. And by the time I was 9 or 10, I figured out that if we could solve the problem of race, all our other problems would fall like dominoes. And I really and truly believe that. When I say I discovered race at 4 years old, what happened was I was the second Black person to ever attend the preschool I was going to. And my best friend was a guy named Marty. And we had been thick as thieves for 2 years. He had a toy for show and tell, and playtime came and I asked him to see his toy and he said he couldn't. And I thought he was messing around. I said it again, I never will forget. The second time I asked him that, he looked down at the ground and he said, I can't play with you because my mommy told me you were Black. And I went inside and cried until my mom picked me up. She took me to the bookstore and bought me a book on Dr. King, which I have to this day. And that really, that incident probably affected me more than any single incident in my life, because after that, for a period of time, I thought that I was bad and I was the only Black person. And I really believe that race is our ultimate problem. And we fix that, we fix a lot of things, believe me.
Okay, thank you, Markham. Same question to you, Rebecca. Which initiatives or events, and which committee would you chair?
Palms is the greatest neighborhood in LA, and we need to attract consumers and other stakeholders to our community. I intend to join the Business Relations and Public Beautification Committee. I have an idea for First Fridays, but I think before we think of programs, the first thing that we need to do is ensure that any project we conceive of is data-driven. So I'd want to roll out a survey to the local business owners to see what are their needs, what is it that we can do to truly support them during COVID and during this time of economic downturn. And I think based on that data, I'm hopeful that one possibility would be bringing a kind of First Fridays to the area, not only to showcase our local businesses, but I think we should also, again, think of allyship, which I mentioned before. So that could also involve working with South Robertson and with Culver City to do a First Fridays on an even larger scale. And I think we want to focus on helping not only the types of businesses you expect to participate in a First Fridays, so galleries and restaurants and cafes and the food and beverage industry. And I want to note that Culver City Arts District was hailed by USA Today as one of the top 10 arts districts in the nation. So again, by partnering with our neighbors, we could really achieve something huge for Palms. But again, not only thinking about those types of businesses, but also service providers. If you are a local accountant or real estate office, how could we promote you in the sort of First Fridays? So this kind of community building event that would really help local business owners showcase, what makes their business unique. I think that's just one idea I have. But again, it really needs to be focused on the responses we get from our constituents, for our neighbors and friends, whether it's through a survey or other means. I really intend to focus on dedicating myself to serving Palms on the business committee.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. All right, for Grace, same question. Which initiatives or events would you like to plan, and which committee would you like to serve on? Thank you.
Thanks. As I mentioned before, I think I'm most interested in being very conscientious as Palms inevitably undergoes expansion and development in the upcoming years. It's going to affect all of us, but keeping equity in mind will be the most important thing in moving forward. So I would look forward to working with the Planning and Land Use Management Committee on this, coming up with creative ways to resist displacement and the rent hikes while still supporting growth and expansion that can largely benefit our community. There are some great groups in Los Angeles that are already lobbying for these efforts. So I think partnering with them on this and working with developers and renters and landlords is one great way that we can have a real impact. In the near future, as the community comes back together after the pandemic, I think we can all benefit from some in-person work and play. Cleanups of our sidewalks and green spaces are great ways to help the community and also get to know each other. And same thing with a community day. These are events that I'd like to help plan so we can get to know each other, learn about our needs, contribute to the growing camaraderie, and inspire more people to get involved. I think Markham mentioned the Buy Nothing Facebook group. Mutual aid initiatives like this are also ways that I felt more connected to the neighborhood. The Palms Fridge is another really amazing effort that came this year. So I think just encouraging mutual aid efforts like this will just continue to build a strong community that we can all benefit from.
Okay, thank you, Grace. All right, before we move to the next question, we do realize that we're getting some questions from the Facebook Live. So if you ask a question there, we will forward it on and take that as part of the sampling. Okay, for the final question, the prepared ones. How do you think Palms Neighborhood Council should work with the LA County and the City of Los Angeles to end homelessness in our neighborhood? And for this one, we will starting with Rebecca.
So we have 568,000 homeless people in the US, with 151,000 in California, 66,000 in LA County, and 41,000 in LA, according to the City of LA's count last year. So we are disproportionate in terms of the challenge that we're facing for our homeless community. A few days ago, Mayor Garcetti announced that he intends to dedicate $1 billion in the next year to addressing the homelessness crisis. And as context, when Mayor Garcetti took office in 2013, the spending by the city was $10 million. So from 10 million to $1 billion. So what that really means for us in Palms is that we need to ensure that we are front and center in partnering with the city and being actively involved as a stakeholder in this rollout. Garcetti said that $24 million will go to providing $1,000 a month to 2,000 households a year. There's also going to be a one-year pilot project where the city will dispatch a mental health professional as opposed to a police officer to a nonviolent crisis. And we also have the 2016 bond measure, which voters approved to create 10,000 housing units over the next 10 years, which has had a rather slow rollout. So because I'm very focused on rational tax policy, of course, I think we need more bond measures such as that with a much higher threshold. And again, making sure that of all the communities in LA, when it comes to this exponential jump in investing in our homeless community, that we are right there partnering front and center with the city. And I think it's important to also keep in mind, the homeless community is a very diverse community. At my past law firm, I actually organized a volunteer day at at a food kitchen here in LA. But in any event, the homeless community involves people who are working, but because of our economic situation are unable to really make a living wage, as well as people who need more health services and addiction counseling. So I also think we need a thoughtful homeless policy that addresses those unique needs in a strategic manner.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Same question for Grace. How would you work with the county and city to help end homelessness in this neighborhood?
Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's really important that we include our unhoused community in this discussion and the policy making. Overall, we must work to make it a more equitable community and prioritize the dignity and respect of our unhoused neighbors. I'm very supportive of using public space to implement safe parking, camping, and housing for those seeking it, as has been proposed by the city of LA. But there are also many amazing existing groups that help connect unhoused individuals with resources and protections while they're in their encampments. So I would advocate for collaboration with these groups so that unhoused individuals can have their needs met. For some that are seeking permanent housing, shelter, or safe camping. But I also think that a top priority is fighting forced removal of individuals from community encampments where they have established relationships, possessions, and goods. As we work to provide more housing for everyone, we must also keep the encampments safe and clean and a good environment so that our unhoused neighbors can have their basic human rights met and be connected to city services for healthcare, food, and safety. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, another question is same question to Markham for how would you work with the city and county to help end homelessness in Palms neighborhood?
Well, the first thing I do is work to create affordable housing that's connected to probably three things. First being job training, second being mental health, and then probably also drug counseling. And I say that honestly, I probably wouldn't have been able to say that pre-pandemic without walking around the neighborhood. I mentioned the job first because if you don't have a job, no matter how affordable the housing is, you're probably likely to fall back into being homeless. Walking around the neighborhood, there's a trail down Exposition, and when the pandemic started, there was a maybe one part of it, like right by the Sprouts on the left side, had homeless people. Now that has grown to people on the opposite side and people on the other side of the track. So people need jobs, and the condition they're in, some of them are very clearly using drugs, but your mental health suffers when you're not able to have one of the three basic needs met. Like Rebecca, I graduated from Georgetown, but one of my biggest fears has always been being homeless. And people say, "Oh, you graduated from Georgetown. That never happened to you." I in my particular building, because I've been here so long, my landlord tried to have me evicted because they wanted to raise the rents. Part of that could be establishing a renter-tenant coalition for the Palms Group to combat landlords who are trying to circumvent the rent control by getting rid of their long-term tenants. But I think it all starts with affordable housing and job training. And
okay,
that's how I would start it.
Okay, thank you. All right, now moving on to, we have a few public questions. I will start with one that regards kind of more about civic engagement. So what are your plans to increase civic engagement among Palms residents who are mainly workers and students or renters in this case? How would you increase the visibility of the Palms NC and organize the neighborhood to involve more neighbors to become active participants in NC activities, but also or in citywide activities to support living wages, healthcare access, etc. So, and really in the engaging more with our stakeholders. So with that, I will ask Grace to start that.
Great, thanks. Thanks for the thoughtful question. I think that the current neighborhood council has a really amazing social media account, and as I was running, I've had neighbors say, oh, I saw the lawn sign. So I think that efforts like these have already been really effective at spreading the word. But I think it comes down to people leveraging their networks to just connect people to each other. As soon as you start getting involved, you kind of learn that everybody knows everybody, and many of us have the same goals. So it's really inspiring. And I think that having a positive outlook on making change is one way to encourage people to get involved. As far as the student community in Palms, I think that that's a really unique opportunity where students know each other, use a lot of public transportation. There's a lot of interaction that occurs. So I think just finding ways to encourage people to reach out to their friends and focus on an issue that they care about. I found that that's been some helpful advice, not to take on everything at once, but focus on something, and then you'll meet others who have the same passion, and it kind of just snowballs from there. So I think that with our diverse community of students and workers and people of all ages, we have a really good opportunity to make a lot of change in a lot of different areas.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Now we'll move to Markham, who, same question on increasing the civic engagement among.
Could you repeat the question,
Yeah,
please?
it's also in the Q&A at the bottom, but I will repeat it. What are your plans to increase civic engagement among the Palms residents who are mainly workers and students? And how would you increase the visibility of Palms NC and organize the neighborhood to involve more neighbors to become more active participants in NC activities or citywide activities, etc.?
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to what I started off talking about, which is engaging with your neighbors, because if you don't know, if Dana and Helen hadn't talked to me about it, I very likely wouldn't be sitting here today. I've seen the signs, but I think more than a sign, more than an email, more than a text, people respond to person-to-person contact. And when you actually physically engage with someone, the likelihood of you reaching them, it just goes up. And if you connect with someone like Grace was talking about on an issue that they care about, they're passionate about, you're started, and if you give people the information, that's power. And talking to people about Palms NC and the things that are done, I think is great. There've been a couple of block parties that I've gone to that the neighborhood council organized, and those kinds of things. I think we need more of them because if you know your neighbors, you will look out for your neighbors, and we will all be safer because of that.
Okay, thank you, Markham. Rebecca, same question on the engagement. Sorry, Rebecca, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, my puppy was barking. Thank you for that very thoughtful question. And I want to respond with a very thoughtful and specific answer. So first of all, I think civic engagement is why we've seen so many people get excited about these elections because of what we have endured as a country for the last 4 years. I know that's why I'm getting involved. And so I think it's a number one issue. I'm going to thread some of the specific things that I mentioned earlier because I think I was the only candidate to talk about certain specific programs I'd like to initiate. You know, the idea of First Fridays is not only to give a spotlight on local businesses, but it really is a way to build community. Again, I'm from the Bay, and if you look at Oakland or other cities across the country that have done those types of events, it really brings the community together. And I think it's important to partner with, you know, Pico Robertson, with Culver City, take advantage of the corridors of amazing restaurants and businesses and happenings we have locally. I think that's a great way to get people, whether they're students, workers, any demographic, really engaged. And I think also events focused on, you know, faith-based community groups that we have, as well as our schools, is key. I think social media really needs to be, I'm so sorry, stepped up. The algorithms for Facebook and Instagram have really changed. So you'll see, you know, the Palms NC postings get, you know, 5 or 6 likes. And I empathize with that challenge because in addition to practicing law at a law firm, I also have a cannabis startup. So I'm dealing myself with how much social media has changed. So there are really so many opportunities for us to really promote the neighborhood council and really, more importantly, serve our constituents, students, youth, and workers, and make sure that whatever their needs are being heard and addressed. And I think a way we do that is really enhancing and advancing our social media, which really should have some major changes considering how much those platforms have changed in the last few months. So those are some of the specific things I would do to address your question.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. All right, we'll be moving to the next public question we have. How would you ensure customers and visitors to Palms community are also heard? So those stakeholders that are not residents or business owners, basically. And for that, we will start with Markham, and we'll give you a little bit extra time too, since you're first.
I think to ensure that visitors to our community are heard, like if you invite them to neighborhood council functions, make sure, again, going back to engaging, you know, people, I have friends here that don't live in the neighborhood, but who attend church in the neighborhood. And if people have a stake in the community, they want it to be a safe and engaging, prosperous community. So I don't have any problem with people from outside the community who are regular visitors and contributors to the community being engaged with the neighborhood council. And I think that's something we should absolutely do.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Markham. Same question to you, Rebecca. What ways would you engage the customers and visitors in Palms? How would you ensure that customers and visitors in Palms community are also heard?
I think that's another great question, because what it brings to mind is the fact that, you know, we're talking about Palms and the needs of Palms, which is, of course, primary, but, you know, we're part of LA. We're part of a community. You know, very few of us just live, work, and play within these boundaries. And so we want to make sure that when we're protecting, enhancing our community, I think we're doing the same for the rest of LA. And also, you know, vice versa, that other Angelenos who come to our community feel safe, feel heard, have a reason to come, spend money, invest, engage, socialize. So I think number one, you know, a big part of it is what we have to offer. I think Palms is the most fantastic part of LA. I think everyone here agrees, but I think it's how we really showcase it, and, you know, thinking about what types of events would bring people here. Again, the First Fridays, I think, checks a lot of boxes. I also think safety is a part of it. You know, that means, you know, whether it's supporting more expansion of our public transit or reduced cost to ride, you know, making it more accessible for everyone from every financial background to be able to come on over to Palms and get to know us. I think also addressing the homeless issue is a big part of that, not only for the human dignity within the homeless community, but because the reality is it can be very difficult when there's a homeless community in front of your business, in front of your building. So making sure people have, number one, a reason to come, which is spotlighting all the fantastic businesses and community happenings we have here. Number two, making sure it's safe and secure so that people feel welcomed. Number three, that it's affordable and accessible through really thoughtful public transportation improvements. And I would say those would be some of the things that I would just start to explore to think through that question.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. And finally, Grace, same question of how would you ensure customers and visitors to Palms community are heard?
Thanks. I think that you both touched on similar ideas that I would also support. Yeah, I think people come to the neighborhood for various reasons, whether that's to visit the businesses, visit friends, spend time outside. So we can work on just supporting all of those things to encourage people to come, and also making sure that it's a pleasant experience when they do come. So I think that continuing to support small businesses, and like I mentioned with housing development, also considering which businesses we support in establishing themselves here during as we continue to grow and change, and then also just making it easier for people to come. So like parking is obviously one of the most contentious issues that we all deal with sometimes, but in addition to public transportation. So I think that thinking about smart ways to allow parking without where it's fair for everyone, but also considering where bus stops are, adding more bus stops if needed, working with transportation companies to improve accessibility, cleanliness of our streets and bus stops, just making it easy to get here and spend time and enjoy it without logistical problems and coming in. And yeah, and also just, I know that many have spoken about beautification, and that also matters, and just outdoor spaces and, murals and art. And that's just one of the things that makes our neighborhood unique, and will continue to make our neighborhood unique.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Our final question from the public. What is a unique experience that makes you well suited to improve the community? So with that, we will start with Rebecca.
A unique experience. Well, I have the gift of gab, as you can tell. I get it from my mom. So I'm going to mention quite a few experiences because I can't think of one because I'm not quick enough on my feet. So I've always worked multiple jobs. I worked through law school, so going to law school at night and working full time. I was working for the federal government, so I was actually traveling to Afghanistan and throughout the United States. And I finished law school a semester early and number one in my class that graduating semester. And everybody works hard in the city. So I'm by no means special. I'm really quite common in that regard. But I think when you're waitressing, working at a nonprofit organization, teaching SAT prep, and working 7 days a week, and that's what you've done your whole life, it's a different kind of experience. I didn't have anything handed to me. And so again, I'm not the exception, I'm the rule. It's a very American experience. And by American, I mean, if you're in the US, you're American. So we've all gone through it. My mom's family's from Hawaii, and thinking about what she sacrificed and what my family sacrificed, that's why I work a 7-day work week. And I think another part of it that drives me is, I've always worked in nonprofits up until very recently. So I think I've always been focused on giving back to my community. That was my job. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was my entire career. It was working in international nonprofits and, moving to a law firm, still organizing community service days. I volunteered at the LA County Bar's Domestic Violence Center because I myself am a survivor of domestic violence. I have a scar on my left leg that I'm almost proud to wear because of what I got through. So I think when you have those experiences, whether it's hard work and grit, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I've never been, but I had to bust my butt to get where I am. And knowing that nothing is easy, being mixed, Asian American, and as a woman, I certainly have many privileges, but I don't have every privilege because we live in a society that's effectively created a totem pole. And I'm very aware of that and aware of how hard I need to work to achieve what it is I'm intending to do. And in this moment, what I intend to do is
Thank you, Rebecca.
And serve our community.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, apologies with the time limit. Okay. All right, same question to Grace. What unique experience that makes you well suited to improve our community? You're on mute.
Thanks. So I think that many of us, we're all here because we care about the community, and we're all hard workers. And I think it's really amazing that so many of us want to help and give back. As far as my personal experience, I came to LA for grad school, and in that time, I think I've developed a sense of community with, first kind of at UCLA within my department and program, but then in the neighborhood, and just understanding what drives not everybody has experienced. It can be extremely alienating, and you don't have a lot of autonomy and what it's like to be a worker, and just advocating for workers' rights and equity so that we can enjoy the other.
We'll wrap it up with Markham. What unique experience makes you well suited to contribute and improve the Palms community?
They tried to evict me for really ridiculous reasons. And I gained a lot of experience going through that, and learned about resources available to help people going through that. And it's not something that's unique for me. Like it'll happen to anybody who's been in their building for a long time, but especially if it's rent control. The unit above mine, same floor layout, rents for over $1,000 more, and these landlords will do whatever they can to get you out. Another thing, experience I would say that would be very helpful is that when I was at Georgetown, I was a manager for the basketball team, and being in that position of service, having to navigate high-level athletes, a coach with extremely high expectations, and having to deal with high-pressure situations has been invaluable in every aspect of my life, from teaching. I'm an actor and a writer, and coming through in high-pressure situations from having been the manager for the basketball team has proven to be extremely helpful, and I think I would be able to apply those skills on the neighborhood council.
You're on mute, Jeremiah.
It wouldn't be a Zoom session if I didn't wasn't on mute at one point on this. So as I was saying on mute, that wraps up our Q&A session. So we will now give the candidates one final 30 seconds to give a closing remark. So with that, we will start with Grace.
Thanks, Jeremiah. Since I've lived in Palms over the years, I really love its uniqueness, the unique businesses and outdoor spaces and streets and people. Meeting those in the community who are engaged and passionate about making change has been so motivating. And I really look forward to moving into a position like this on the Palms Neighborhood Council Board as I finish my time as a grad student and consider my larger role in the community. I will continue to learn about our community needs and how we can best address them. I hope that my priorities of advocating for support of our unhoused community, carefully considering our neighbors' housing affordability, mutual aid, and community building will resonate with you, and you'll consider supporting me as the Area B representative.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Markham, closing statements.
Yes, as I said, I'm a long-term member of this community, over 25 years. And if you want a Georgetown grad or someone who has been involved with UCLA like Grace, I taught at UCLA. So you can get two birds with one stone. I'll cover Rebecca and Grace, and I'm looking forward to being engaged in the community and helping everyone prosper in Palms.
Okay, thank you, Markham. Rebecca, closing statements, please.
Palms is the greatest place to live in LA, but our diverse, hardworking residents deserve much more. What we survived in the last 4 years is not an anomaly. It's what results from generations of racism and an economy that isn't free market or capitalist, but is controlled by a small elite. So let's not waste any more time. Let me get to work for you, for us. Let's fight not just to keep Palms as beautiful as it already is, but to make it beautifully fair and inclusive and accessible and just. Because we don't leave our community as we find it, but we make it how we want it to be. Thank you and vote for me.
Okay, thank you, candidates. I think that was a good round of statements and the closing statements and questions. All right, with that, we will be moving to our next round. Thank you everyone for participating here. Coming up next, we have our president candidates. So we have two candidates for president. We have John Steer and Randall Irving Jr. Okay, so we have John. Welcome. And waiting for Randall.
Tina, oh, here it is. I don't need help anymore.
Okay, welcome candidates. You will have 2 minutes to give an opening statement. As a reminder to the public, we have cleared the questions from the previous round. So if you want to ask Q&A questions now for while the candidates go through their predetermined questions, the same 3 that were given to the area reps, you'll be able to ask new questions. We will select 3 of those. Okay, with that, John, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is John Steery. I've been a Palms resident for 8 years. I'm an international business and economics major from the University of New Hampshire. I studied for 1 year in Hong Kong at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And I believe that our community needs to come together at this moment more than ever. We just came out of a pandemic, and the one thing that we have is each other. This community I've appreciated for many years. I've watched it grow and thrive. And to be honest, in this last year, I've watched it fall apart a little bit when we should have come together. I've seen crime increase in the neighborhood. I've seen us become a speed bump on people's commute to the big tech companies in Culver City. And I've seen people not looking out for each other and being neighborly. And at the end of the day, I think we need to come together and be better neighbors, work together to improve all common issues that we have, and just be open, honest, and friendly with one another like one would in a small neighborhood community like Palms. This is a beautiful community. It's my favorite neighborhood that I've ever lived in Los Angeles. And I really don't plan on leaving. And I hope that through the neighborhood council, we can work to promote ourselves, to publicize the neighborhood council to begin with,
and get community involvement in making the place better for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Randell, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Randell Irving Jr., and I am running for president of the Palms NC. I lived in Palms for about 10 years and got involved in the Palms NC when I attended my first meeting in 2017. Then I decided to become a volunteer, and from there, I was soon appointed to the board in 2018 as the community-based organization representative. I helped to coordinate the 3rd annual Palms Community Day, and I invited local officials, artists, businesses, performers, nonprofit schools, students for our block party that we had, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to getting back to things like that very soon. As vice president and chair of outreach, I work to build our engagement on social media. Outreach is one of the most important things that we can do to make sure that businesses and residents know about the Palms NC as a resource. I recruit board members, volunteers, and other folks to be involved with the NC. I also formed and co-chair the Racial and Social Justice Committee, which has been responsible for many CISs, many letters, and communication regarding our desires and our stance on issues involving racial and social justice in the city, like disarming park rangers. Under my leadership, we'll continue to support neighbors who are unhoused, advocate for renters, seniors, children, and families. We'll champion green initiatives and sustainability, and we'll make our neighborhood safe, clean, and fun. We'll ensure that LA knows who Palms is and that our councilperson listens to our community. The Palms NC is one of the strongest NCs in the system and definitely a neighborhood council to watch. I'm super proud of the work the Palms NC board and committees have done in the past 2 years, and I look forward to furthering that work. I'm a leader who cares deeply about Palms and with a demonstrated track record of success in and beyond the Palms community. I hope that you will vote for me and join me in leading Palms forward. Will Randell for Palms NC president, vote for the Palms Forward slate. You can find us at palmsforward.com or at Palms Forward on social media. Thanks.
Thank you, Randell. So with that, we will be moving into our question and answer session. We'll be going through the same 3 questions that the area rep B answered, as well as questions from the public. So again, if you're on Facebook Live, you can ask a question there and we will forward it on to our candidates here, or ask a question down below in the Q&A button down at the bottom. So with that, John, how would you, what are your ideas for improving quality of life in Palms? How do you plan to work with the Palms NC board and other members to advocate for local Palms issues within the city of LA, with the city of LA?
Thank you, Jeremiah. I think first off, it's publicizing the fact that the Palms Neighborhood Council exists in the first place. I know that you guys are doing a great job thus far in developing outreach and improving the community, but to be honest, I've lived here for 8 years and this is the first year that I knew you guys existed. And so if the people and the residents of Palms don't know you're here for them, there's not really much we can do to help them. And so providing an outreach and publicizing our existence, I think will be the first initiative improving Palms, because we need to hear what neighbors are concerned with. I think that honestly, some speed bumps would be a huge improvement in Palms. I've seen cars drive 100 miles down Hughes Avenue. I've seen people almost get hit. I've seen people looking at their phones. I've seen people disregarding each other in our community and just driving through and treating us like we don't exist. I think that Palms is a beautiful place that needs to be recognized as such. And if you elect me as president, I will do everything in my power to do just that and work with the NC to bring us together, publicize our existence, and bring about needed change to community members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Randell, same question. What are your ideas for improving quality of life in Palms, and how do you plan to work with the NC board and other members, other boards on the NC to advocate for local Palms issues within the city, with the city of LA?
Yeah. So I think that I agree with my my opponent that first we need to listen to what Palms residents want, right? So you can't improve a community for folks if you don't know what they're looking for. So it's continue to engage with board members, with our area reps, with our residents, with our businesses to find out what do they want to see in Palms as we move forward. It's getting back to community in person. I love virtual community, this is great, but I'm ready to be back in person when it's safe, right? So having block parties, having different kind of events where we come together as a community, from painting murals together, doing neighborhood cleanups, things that we used to do before we were hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Increase access to green space and open space That's something that I know that the Palms community is very much in favor of from my time as an elected official in Palms. Advocating for more things like a permanent slow streets program. I help to bring that program to our neighborhood. It helps to keep us safe while we're engaged in physical activity and kind of slow down the speed in our neighborhood. So making that program permanent in our neighborhood. And I would increase walkability signs, art maps, food maps, business maps, just giving people information so they know what resources they have in Palms. And advocating and voting for policy change in LA and City Hall to make LA a more equitable and just city. I think a lot of the work that we do is with the Palms community, but really part of the Palms NC's mission is to be an advisory committee to our council person. So staying informed around what City Council is doing, letting them know what Palms opinions are of those actions, and ensuring and keeping our elected officials accountable.
Okay, thank you, Mandel. Our next question, and as a reminder, next question, just plug for the Q&A button down at the bottom. Our next question, what initiatives or events would you like to organize? And as a board member, well, actually, as president, I think you're not actually expected, but which committees would you participate in, and which one would you pick and why? We'll start this one with Randall.
Yeah, I've been involved in committees for quite a while. I lead two committees currently. I'll probably step up for one of those in order to join another. But I'm thinking about a new committee for renters and advocating for those who have needs related to housing. And so making sure that we can advocate for things like rent control, making sure that renters know resources like the Palms NC, but also like HSID and just kind of things when they're going through things like evictions or different things within their living facility. So I think that's going to be a really important initiative for us, especially as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic with the eviction moratoriums and those kind of protections for renters kind of ending soon. I think that Palms in particular will be a vulnerable community because we have so many renters. We can see dramatic impacts on that. So making sure that we prepare for the ending of those supports to make sure that our residents are not vulnerable. We want to do block parties, food truck nights, art walks, food walks. So I mean, lots of in-person things that take advantage and that really highlight the beauty and the resources that our neighborhood has. I might advocate for a more permanent slow streets program, as I mentioned. And I currently on the executive committee. I'm on the Racial and Social Justice Committee. I co-chair that committee. I chair the Outreach Committee. I would lead the Executive Committee and continue on the Racial and Social Justice Committee.
Okay, thank you, Randall. John, same question. What initiatives or events would you like to organize? And as president, what would you, or as a board member, you'd be required to be on more than one or more Palms NC committees. Which one would you pick and why?
Thank you, Jeremiah. You know, as my opponent, Randall said, he hit a lot of things on the head here. He had a lot of great initiatives, and I agree with most of them. As Markham brought up earlier, I myself has been a victim of an eviction. I have an owner of a house that I live in, single family unit, that working through the system of the laws, they're allowed to build an ADU in the back, start a construction project, and we've lived here for 8 years. Our rent is quite low, and in order to squeeze us out, he's starting a construction project in our backyard during the COVID pandemic when we all are working from home. I think that is highly unfair. I know that the number of other Palms residents have experienced something similar. I've seen a similar house to my own raised at the end of my street to build another luxury apartment. The last thing Palms needs right now is another luxury apartment. We've been talking about homelessness. We've been talking about the struggle of surviving in Los Angeles. I've been so close to going bankrupt in this city. It's insane. You have to grind every single day. And it's not been made easy by the landlords and the owners that have been trying to force us out. I think that we need to really cooperate with the government bodies in place in Los Angeles to make stronger initiatives to protect our currently housed citizens from becoming homeless. If we're trying to fight the homeless problem, the last thing we need is housed residents losing their house and becoming homeless. That's why I myself would like to be heavily involved in the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. I think that we need stronger initiatives to protect renters from becoming evicted or becoming squeezed out. Markham, the candidate earlier running for Area B, made great points. His owner of the building tried everything possible to squeeze him out because his apartment's rent was lower than the units above him. They thought they could make more money. I think that's incredibly inappropriate. It's a travesty for the citizens of Palms. And it's been too long that we've let the politicians of the city give us lip service at the class of the billionaires that are moving into Culver City and the surrounding areas. I will not let this area become another speed bump on the map of Los Angeles, because we're a beautiful and vibrant community that should be respected as such. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, John. Our next question, how do you think the Palms Neighborhood Council should work with the LA County and City of Los Angeles to help end homelessness in our neighborhood? And for this one, we will start with John.
Sure. Homelessness is something that we all have seen in Los Angeles. In the 8 years that I've lived here, it has gone from something that was a small issue to something that has become a major, major issue. At the end of my street on Hughes, we saw a homeless person die in a fire in his encampment because he was living there, having a cook fire, burned to death in our neighborhood, dead. I've seen theft in our neighborhood. Our neighbors got broken into. My bicycle was stolen from in front of my house, and the Los Angeles police weren't very helpful. I had to go out, seek my bicycle myself, and recover it. And I think that these kind of issues are systemic and can be addressed by our community by supporting each other, becoming more neighborly, talking with one another, and addressing our problems together. I think that clearly homelessness is a massive issue in the US right now, and it's being proliferated and made worse by business decisions that the city top level politicians are allowing. Something like a couple $2 billion were pumped into the state for homelessness, and once audited, basically no money made it to the homeless. They built like one building. That is disgusting. As was brought up earlier by some of the Area B candidates, I think advocating for use of public space for homeless people would be a great move. We need to move and transition people from drug problems to unemployment into a role where they can get reassimilated in the community, feel loved, feel one, have their mental health issues addressed. And I think that as a council, we can address our neighborhood's issues, communicate with the larger governing bodies, and work as a whole to move people from homelessness to employment, to mental health corrections, and then to hopefully being housed and productive members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Same question to Randall. How would you work with the Palms Neighborhood Council? How do you think the Palms Neighborhood Council should work with the LA County and City of Los Angeles to help end homelessness in our neighborhood?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly daunting challenge. It's a big challenge that we're kind of facing right now. And I think that some of the reasons that it is such a challenge is because it's divided between the city and the county. After attending Civic University, I learned just the way the power is divided up. And so, we do have some conflicts there because of, kind of whose issue, so to speak, homelessness is, right? I think that at the neighborhood council level, there are some things that we can do, but we can't do, we can do some things, but I don't want to, I don't want to posit that we can change this problem on our own because it's much bigger than I think the neighborhood council scope. I think all what we can do is that we can help to identify and help people before they become unhoused, right? So, there are many Angelinos who live, just a paycheck away, or just, an unfortunate medical bill or circumstance away from becoming homeless, right? And so I think that we have to make sure that we have programs, and we've seen some of those programs during the pandemic. So one of the questions I have as an elected leader is, if the city was able to do these things during the pandemic, why couldn't we do these things previously? And so there've been programs that provided rent support for those who are kind of just need some short-term help, maybe a couple of months, right? There have been multiple programs that have come through during the pandemic. And so I think that I will push the city to continue supporting Angelinos with programs that support them, like rent, food, services that we saw during the pandemic pop up, right? And I want to make sure they don't go away because while the pandemic is an emergency, right, many Angelinos are in an emergency every single day, right, outside of the pandemic. And so I think it's really important that we identify and keep people housed who are, in jeopardy of becoming unhoused, and provide resources for that. And also, I think that we have to also look at, the policies and the development of how we got here. So if you look at how freeways are built in Los Angeles, you look at how neighborhoods are divided, racism and privilege underpin a lot of our policies and development. So the only way we're going to undo a lot of this, what we see here, is by leading with equity and justice forward, right? And so, yeah, I'll share that.
Okay, thank you, Randall.
Sorry, was the timer working? I didn't see the timer.
Yeah, the timer, I think, died.
Yeah, it just timed out. I'm gonna, let me get it on board real quick.
Thank you, that'll be helpful.
Apologies there, but I think that was time. All right, so with that, we'll be moving into questions from the public, and I will be combining two very similar questions. So what sort of work or what have you already done for the community while you've been living here in Palms? And for this one, we will start with Randall.
Sorry, can you repeat the question one time?
Question is, while you've already
Can you give me a few minutes to
Yeah,
get the
we'll give
timer
one.
set up? Sorry.
Sorry.
One moment.
One minute.
I'm sorry.
But you can repeat it as
Say
I
it
get
again.
this set up.
Yeah, I'll say it again and wait, we'll have to give Tina a moment to get the timer working again. So while you've been, living here in Palms, what have you done during your time to help the people living here or help the community, help the people or the community living here? That you already done, things that you've done in the community. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing two questions and my brain short-circuited. So we'll start that.
Is our timer working now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, should be.
Wonderful.
Okay.
I've done quite a bit to help the Palms community in my time here. A lot of it with the Palms NC. Before joining the Palms NC, was someone who kind of, lived in Palms and kind of spent my time in other places for work and for play. But I really wanted to develop more of a sense of community here and get involved in my community. So I did. And so I've done things like help plant community gardens, help water gardens, help seniors find resources, share things in the pandemic. We created programs just for supporting neighbor-to-neighbor programs, for supporting each other, and then also for supporting seniors. We've given money to Palms Elementary School. We have done cleanup. I have done Palms Community Day. I've done a number of projects, and including, I think, the really important CIS communication. So a lot of the events that we've done are great, right? But we have done a lot as a board, and I've done a lot as a board member as part of the Palms NC to make sure that we're advocating for the various needs that Palms residents have and the various interests that Palms residents and stakeholders have. So I've been very, very involved in the Palms community. If you've lived in Palms, you probably have seen me around. If not, especially in the Palms NC, but there are a number of projects that I've done. If you look at the Palms NC annual report, you can see the report online at the Palms NC website. Much of all of that is some of the things I've done as a board member. And so you can look at the report from 2020 and the report from 2019 as other evidence of my work in the community.
Okay, thank you, Randall. Same question to you, John. What have you done while living here to help the people and community of Palms?
Sure, thank you, Jeremiah. I think that my opponent, Randall, is clearly far more qualified and experienced in this department. He's been part of the neighborhood council clearly for quite a minute. And that's something I can't say I have been. Until very recently, I didn't know that it even existed. But what I think I'm bringing is a fresh perspective. And when I've lived in Palms, I've done what I think is most important to any neighborhood, is be neighborly, be friendly, smile, help your neighbors when they need help. I've been a great resource for people on my street, and I hope to expand that to other streets in Palms and get to know the community in a way that currently Randall does. And I would love to reach out further than I currently have with the platform that the neighborhood council would allow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. We have one question, I guess particularly related to the role of presidency. Since its role is especially in leadership for the rest of the neighborhood council, how do you plan on leading the next board? And for this one, we will start with John, since we've been going back and forth.
Sure. Leadership is not something that can be learned. You're born a leader. Some people can try, they can do what they want, they can read books, they can practice, but there's something about leadership that's innately inside of one. It's a willingness to put yourself in front of the crowd and be willing for that moment to lead your community, knowing that the person in front of the herd is the one that gets knocked down first. When you're in the center of the pack inside of mediocrity, you're safe, but there's nothing there that you can help your community members improve with. When you're at the front of the pack, you risk being the top target from everybody, but it's something that you have to be willing to do to drive your community forward. I think that I'll offer a fresh perspective in guiding our board. And I know that unfortunately, we truly, let's all address the issue at hand here. We have no real power from the government. We have no voting power. We have no actual thing, but we're an advocacy group for the neighborhood. But I think that we can do a little bit better than that. Power is not something that people give to you. Power is something that you have to take together. And as a community, if we can combine our voices in a way that hasn't been heard before, I think that we can move beyond a neighborhood council that's organizing small events. And I would love to have a massive block party. I cannot wait for that. And there will be plenty of them. But if we can get our voices together, combined behind single issues, we can be more powerful than we've ever been before and advocate for actual change and see actual effects happen. And I think that that is what the neighborhood council needs right now more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Randall, same question. How would you lead the next neighborhood council board?
Yeah, great question. I love this question. I would do things, I think, similarly to how we've been leading the Palms board already as vice president for the past 2 years. So one thing that folks will know about my leadership is that I do things with folks, not to folks. So in order for us to develop where we're going as a board, right, that's going to be something that the board determines along with the community starting in July, right? So I think that I have some ideas that I like to see. I know that folks on my slate also have ideas. The community has ideas, and other candidates have ideas. So it's about kind of, setting our vision together. I lead by listening. I lead by developing a vision and by collaborating to achieve that vision. I believe in empowering and supporting other leaders. And so there are a number of folks, including my slate, that I've been able to bring into onto a team to accomplish something. I brought in board members, I brought in volunteers, I brought in committee chairs and folks. I'm really, I have experience, and I'm good at bringing others and working with others. I like to work collaboratively. I love working on teams. The Palms NC is a big team, and it's a big community. I like community. I've experienced community building in my work professionally. I was a school leader, and I'm now a district leader. So I've led communities, I've led schools. I'm used to leading organizations that have lots of things involved, from the funding pieces to supporting pieces to making sure that you can advocate and kind of hear the different issues that different constituents have and move the community forward. So I'm a leader who I hope that you'll find that I'm someone that you can come and talk to. So you can reach out to me on social media if you don't have my information already, right? And folks know that you can kind of stop me on the street in Palms, tell me your ideas. I've had many conversations with our neighbors and residents about different things by just walking up to the farmers market or just walking in the grocery store and passing someone. So I'm someone who is going to be empowering, right? I want to empower others. It's not about kind of having that leadership be held by just a few. But I think by empowering everyone to be involved, that's how we get to a better community.
Okay, thank you, Randall. So I'm going to move to one of our backup questions here. How would you support equity for Palm stakeholders, whether it be promoting racial or social justice or affordable housing, etc.? So in terms of equity. So with that, we'll give that one to Randall first. Learning first, right? So I think that understanding what does equity look like. I think there are different definitions of equity depending on what you're talking about or who you're talking to. I think my status as someone who is a minority in our community. I grew up minority self. I'm a Black man, and so I think equity is something that's very important to me personally, which is why I started our committee on racial and social justice. Right, so we have a space to talk about things, we have a space to learn, we have a space to develop solutions, and we have a space to come together as a community to define how do we begin to solve some of these challenges, and how do we ensure that everyone's involved appropriately, and that we can make sure that those who've had less privilege, we have a space to speak up. And so if you notice, my slate is a very diverse slate, both in every way that you can imagine diversity, we're diverse. And so that's super, super important to me. It's also important to me that we uplift communities. And so you have to do so by understanding what privilege I have and what privilege other folks have. And then really, I think for me, it's really, I think listening to and advocating for and looking out for those who are most vulnerable in our communities. So we have many other folks who might be considered vulnerable, from LGBTQI and trans folks and Black trans women to children, right, to folks who are differently abled, to folks who might be unhoused. So I think that's really making sure that we are empathetic, that we're listening, and that we're keeping our ear close to the ground so we know how to best help people. I think you can best help people by partnering with them and defining what that help looks like. Okay, thank you, Randall. Same question to you, John. how would you support equity for Palms stakeholders, whether it be promoting racial and social justice or affordable housing, et cetera, along those lines? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremiah. I think the most important thing to consider is that we have one mouth and two ears. So we need to use our ears and listen to the people of Palms. We need to spread the word that the neighborhood council exists and that we're here to be a listening ear to your problems. Until we really understand the diverse needs of our highly diverse and talented community, there's no way that we can truly help them. I think that we have an interesting community. Like there's a lot of singles, families, small households, and there's also a lot of high density households. We also have a very transient community. We have people that live here for maybe short-term rent, maybe 1 year, maybe they love it and they stay. All these people have very diverse set of issues that need to be addressed. Some people need security, some people need to be heard, some people need a helping hand, some people need help off the street, some people need mental health help. This city drives people crazy. It's one of the most stressful environments that exist in the country, maybe in the world. It's high pressure. The thought of becoming homeless is at the corner. We have a daily reminder from the people on our corner that we may give $1 as we pass by, or maybe even offer a conversation. And we need to think about them. And we need to think about everybody else. There's businesses that need to be heard. There's people that are sleeping outside in front of their businesses and stopping the businesses from being able to operate. So while we need to look out for the homeless people, we need to also look out for the business interests. We need to be able to move this very diverse and difficult, complex problem in a way forward that helps all community members and stakeholders feel wanted and feel like they have equity and a stake in the community. And by reaching out, talking with every single person that we can, hearing what their concerns are and aligning interests, I think that the neighborhood council can be a lot more effective than it currently is in bringing us together and forward into a positive Palms that the whole neighborhood and the whole city knows and respects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. With that closes our Q&A sessions. We had 3 predetermined questions and 3 questions from the public. We'll now move into our closing statements. So each candidate will be given 30 seconds for a closing statement. And we'll start with John.
All right. Thank you, Jeremiah. Again, my name is John Steary. I'm running for the Palms Neighborhood Council president. And while I don't have much experience with the neighborhood council, I do offer a fresh perspective and I have an energetic commitment to changing our neighborhood in a positive way. I've had leadership roles throughout my entire life, and I believe that my diverse set of knowledge and skills could help move us forward in a direction that includes everybody, makes everybody feel welcome, and at the end of the day, makes us happy, healthy, and a productive community. Thank you. Vote John Steary.
Thank you, John. Randell, 30 seconds for a closing statement.
Yeah, I served in one of the few people who've served in many different capacities on the board. So I've been a volunteer, I've been a committee chair, I've been a representative, and I've been an executive board member. I was the first Black vice president and would like to be the first Black president of Palms. I'm a dedicated leader with a proven track record of working within the Palms community and with the board. My experience in leadership, my dedication to learning, my commitment to working with you will help to make me the best candidate for the Palms NC. I have the relationships, knowledge, the drive, and the commitment to ensure that the Palms NC continues to be the best NC in the system. Vote Randell Irving and vote for Palms Forward.
Okay, thank you, Randell, and thank you both candidates for your answers and your vision clearly for Palms. With that closes our forum for tonight with all the candidates that we've done. If Tina, you can pull up the notice for the next forum. So we had some great discussions tonight. Everyone has noticed this has gone, to give everyone equitable amount of time, it did take a bit of time to go through everybody. So that's why we've split the forum into 2. And our second forum will be on May 4th. That's next Tuesday, same time, 7 to 9. And that's for representatives area C, D, and E. You can join us at the Zoom link below. Next slide, Tina. As a reminder, as we said in the beginning, we'll say it as many times as possible. This is a mail-in vote only, and so mail-in ballot requests are by June 1st. If you do not request a ballot by June 1st, unfortunately, you will not be able to vote. If you and you can submit your mail-in ballot by June 8th, and as long as it's postmarked by June 8th, it will be counted as long as it's received within 10 days. I believe that's right. With that, I thank all the candidates who came to speak here today. Oh, and sorry, as a plug, one more plug for our website and our, not to be biased, but our great video to help explain how to vote in this election, put together by Tina, primarily Tina and Maria. So with that, we will conclude our first candidate forum. I thank the public for their participation and the candidates for giving their time to speak tonight and answer questions from the public. As a reminder to the candidates, this was a recorded session, and I think we will work to host it and maybe even split it up so that you can promote the particular forum for your prospective constituents. With that, that concludes tonight. Thank you everybody for coming. All right, we'll go ahead and end.